A vision becomes a milestone when it helps make our lives richer with love and laughter. When it helps make a cleaner, smarter, and a more beautiful planet. So that you can set off on joyous new journeys and adventures. Building stronger bonds and bridging impossible distances, which take you from the ever new to the forever beautiful. Opening up vistas and windows to a vibrant new world. A vision becomes a milestone when it touches millions of lives. Aditya Birla Group, big in your life. Evolve is the core of positive change and adaptation. Evolve is the soul of the universe and is deeply connected to us and the actions around us. There will be one thing that will last forever: evolution. Be a part of the business evolution of India. WTC, World Trade Center, Delhi, at Nauroji Nagar, and be a part of the global culture. We keep our accomplishments fresh and we keep innovating this space. We are driven by the Government of India's vision to drive growth for India. We had a dream to bring the best of the world to India. And we had the vision to create a majestic, holistic and exclusive reality. Be a part of one of India's largest commercial space revolutions. WTC, World Trade Center, Delhi, at Nauroji Nagar. The World Trade Center offers exceptional connectivity to all parts of the city. It is closely connected to places like Lutyens, Delhi, and its proximity to the airport makes it even more appealing. A luxurious, upscale and 12 towers offering the most technologically advanced office space and modern features in the city. Meticulously planned and crafted 12 towers. A landmark project with a massive land span of over 34 lakh square feet area, infused with all the modern amenities with intelligent designs, green spaces and high-end facilities. Built with a vision, planned for a greener today and tomorrow. Dedicated spaces for cultural activities, F&B courts, boardrooms, health centers, multi-layered securities and modern parking facilities, to name a few. With 24-hour security, state-of-the-art facilities and an impressive list of features for your business, there would be parking space for 8,000 cars. Our commercial office spaces will meet your needs to grow and expand. The spacious floor plans offers a unique, individualized workspace and ample natural light throughout the workday. All our locations in WTC will include state-of-the-art healthcare services, fitness centers, so you can get the most out of your workspace. A reality shaping, rising, shining and standing tall. The dream place for businesses and hospitality. A reflection of supremacy. A hub for businesses to flourish and thrive. Live the dream. Lead the way. Showcase, collaborate and succeed. Be a part of the business evolution. Be a part of global trade revolutions. Many big corporates have already marked their presence at WTC Delhi. Bookings are open. Book your space now.
It is a fact of life that every coin has two sides. In our case, people are just familiar with one, and that is of being a money lender to the railway sector. So here is an eye-opener. At Indian Railway Finance Corporation, we nurture millions of dreams. The dreams that are powered with new ideas, will and ambition to be on top of the world. We are committed to creating a conducive environment for the railway sector to grow unhindered. Right from planning to backing up its construction to modernization, funding of high-capacity wagons, coaches and high-speed locomotives.
जन औषधि केंद्रों पर मिलने वाली दवाओं की कीमत बाजार में जो दवाएं मिलती हैं उसी क्वालिटी की, लेकिन जन औषधि केंद्र में 50% से 90% तक उसकी कीमत कम होती है।
भारतीय जन औषधि परियोजना के अंतर्गत अब तक देश भर में हजारों जन औषधि केंद्र खोले जा चुके हैं, जहां पर 1800 से अधिक दवाइयां और 285 सर्जिकल उपकरण बहुत ही कम कीमतों पर उपलब्ध हैं। अधिक जानकारी के लिए जन औषधि सुगम मोबाइल ऐप को डाउनलोड करें या टोल फ्री नंबर 1800 180 8080 पर कॉल करें।
जोड़ना है तुझे ऊंचा, परों को खोल के रख। कसौटी वक्त की है, हौसलों को तोल के रख। ऊंची है दीवारें, लंबी है डगर, ना है हम राही, ना है हम सफर।
खरगोन हमारे आर प्लान में लोग हर साल जो आसपास की ग्रामीण महिलाएं हैं उनको टेलरिंग का क्लास कराते हैं। जो स्कूल बैग्स भी हम लोग हर साल बांटते थे, 850-900 के लगभग स्कूल बैग्स भी बांटते थे, वो बैग्स भी हमने इनसे स्टिच कराए।
सक्षम बनना चाहते थे, हम हमारे पैरों पे खड़ा होना चाहते थे। तो हमने एक बार मीटिंग में बोला कि सर हम इतना कार्य सीखे हैं तो हमको दुकान खुलवा के दो। तो दुकान खुलवा के दिया।
हमको यहाँ दुकान मिलने के बाद हमने सोचा कि हम यहाँ जो भी कार्य करते हैं, जो भी चीज़ें बनाते हैं, उन चीज़ों पर हमारे ब्रांड का नाम क्या है। और हमने सोचा कि हम हमारे ब्रांड का नाम सब इसलिए रखा कि हम आगे बढ़े और हमें देखते महिला और लड़कियाँ भी आगे बढ़े।
अभी आगाज है तेरा, बहुत कुछ सीखना है। कमर कसनी अभी बाकी है, मुट्ठी भींचना है। अभी आगाज है तेरा, बहुत कुछ सीखना है।
हमने फिर इनको अपना एक जो हमारा गर्ल एम्पावरमेंट मिशन का एक प्रोग्राम होता है, उसमें उसके जो बालिकाएं थीं उनका ड्रेस भी हमने इन्हीं से स्टिच कराया। और वो प्रोग्राम में वो ड्रेसेस बहुत सक्सेसफुल थी, लोगों ने उनको बहुत अप्रिशिएट किया। नेक्स्ट लेवल पे हम ये प्लान कर रहे हैं कि इनको हम जो इंडस्ट्रियल स्टिचिंग मशीनें होती हैं वो हम इनको ला के देंगे। इन्हीं जो हमने इन बच्चों को जो ट्रेन किया है, दे विल बिकम, हमारा ये एक तरीके से एम्बेसडर का काम करेगा। और हमारा टीपीसी का जो विज़न है कि हम पावर जनरेशन के साथ साथ हम आसपास के लोगों का भी केयर करते हैं, इसमें भी हम सफल हो पाएंगे। धन्यवाद।
इतिहास लिखने के लिए कलम की नहीं, हौसलों की जरूरत होती है।
थैंक यू एनटीपीसी खरगोन।
Ladies and gentlemen, it's day 3 of the HT Leadership Summit. Our exploration of the theme Beyond Barriers continues, taking us to the realms of possibilities and breaking new ground. We've witnessed remarkable dialogues and there's much more to come. Our first guest today is Shailendra Singh, the Managing Director at Peak 15, India's largest venture capital firm that's fostering partnerships with over 400 companies across technology, consumer and financial sectors. Acknowledged on Forbes Midas list for 3 consecutive years, Shailendra Singh's academic credentials include an MBA with distinction from Harvard Business School and an undergraduate degree in chemical engineering from IIT Bombay. He joins us for a dynamic discussion moderated by R. Sukumar, HT's Editor-in-Chief.
Good evening and welcome to a very, very special session of the Hindustan Times Leadership Summit. The theme for this year's summit is Beyond Barriers, and I have with me a person who is perfectly equipped to speak on the theme. Welcome, Shailendra. Shailendra Singh is, I think everyone in the startup and the venture capital ecosystem in this part of the world knows him. Runs India's and Southeast Asia's largest venture capital firm called Peak XV or Peak 15. The XV stands for 15 in Roman. Formerly Sequoia, but after Sequoia's rebranding into 3 distinct units, this is the unit that is focused on Asia and India, Southeast Asia and India. Over the last 18 years, Shailendra and his team have invested in close to 400 companies. They have around $9 billion under management. They've had around $6.3 billion in total exits, which is a staggering sum. 50 unicorns to their credit. Pine Labs, Dhruva, Gojek, Cred, Unacademy. You name some of the most happening startups, and Shailendra and his team have been involved in some way. So Shailendra, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I know how busy you are. I also know how reluctant you are usually to put yourself out there. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start by asking you a question that I'm sure you've been asked many times. This whole rebranding from Sequoia to Peak XV and this refocusing on this region. What's the logic been, and how has the experience of the rebranding been?
So Kumar, first, very, very honored to be here. It's been a great privilege to know you now for over a decade. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. We are very much work in progress. We feel very grateful we've had a chance to invest in India and Southeast Asia these last 18 years, and we're sort of on a long-term journey. So I think of us as, in many ways, our entrepreneurial journey has started with the rebrand. So we see ourselves as very much as looking forward to the next few decades investing in India and Southeast Asia. Well, as you know, Sukumar, Sequoia is a very big firm, active in 3 major regions. And at some point, it started to become clear that the needs of the business in each region were different. And so this was a global decision to rebrand. Specifically for us, I think one thing that changed over the last few years is about 5-6 years ago, around 10% of our business was focused on cross-border investing, and we think of this as twin engines of innovation. India has twin engines of innovation. Obviously, the one big part of innovation is focused on the local market. That could be our incredible fintech ecosystem, or it could be consumer products and services for the market, or business products and services for the India or Southeast Asia market. And then the other engine is the products and services built in India, call it all the whole, product nation ideology, for the world. And it's the second bucket that started to grow a lot for us. So about 5-6 years ago, this used to be 10% of what we invested in. Over the last 2 years, that became 50% of what we invested in. So 50% of all investments we make are companies that are focused on global markets. And when they shifted over the last 5-6 years, what started to happen is the kinds of opportunities we now see, the kinds of things we now invest in are in direct conflict with what our partners in the US are doing. So if the US team led an investment in a company, which is a competitive investment, and they won it, then if in 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 10, 12 weeks, we want to make a very similar investment in our region, then it's a challenge because, these days companies, they may be foreign domiciled. Sometimes they could be an Indian startup, or they could have a US presence pretty early on. Typically after seed or Series A, we will see now in these companies, one of the co-founders will move to the US to build a business. So for us, the biggest benefit of this rebrand was that we now no longer have any kinds of things we cannot do because of this global conflict. And so really we were at a large scale where we were cannibalizing ourselves in a way from a conflict perspective. And so that's our biggest rationale for the rebrand. The other thing is we become leaner, we become more focused, we become sharper in being able to do things that are unique to our region. For example, I'll give you an example. In our region, if you take India, some of the most admired companies, whether it's HDFC Bank or TCS or some of the consumer companies, they have had this consistent compounding trajectory over the last, many decades. And that type of consistent capital efficient compounding is incredible in India, but it's very distinct from the ethos of Silicon Valley, where it's a very, sort of the blitz scaling is the word used frequently, right? So I think this rebrand allows us to also take a little bit more patient, more long-term approach to building companies the India way in many cases. And so we're excited about that.
Great. And I noticed that it might have been a coincidence, but after the rebrand, your activity seems to have become more frenetic, right? I mean, you've made several investments. It's almost as if there has been an acceleration.
To be honest, that is not the case. I think we think of it all. We try to always act business as usual. Actually, sometimes when I've spoken to folks over the years, they say, "Hey, what's new?" And I always tell them it's business as usual, because we try to remain very consistent. Now, what did happen is just right prior to rebrand, we didn't want to sign too many term sheets, and we didn't want any founders to be surprised by the rebrand. So we held back some term sheets that we signed later. The seed market has been active, so it's true that we've been active in seed. In growth, we'd like to do more, actually. So we are keen to do more in growth, and we have not found enough things where price corrected from the 2021, call it the zero interest rate environment and so on. So I'd say activity is healthy. It's not too much and it's not too little. At least that's my point of view.
Over the last 2 decades, you've been through several boom and bust cycles in investing. How would you characterize the cycle right now, as far as the Indian market is concerned?
First, Sukumar, as you know, it's always the same, okay? meaning these days cycles are so frequent, you are in one cycle or the other, and then there is brief periods of transition between cycles. So it's always the same. It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems, right? I think the current environment is a gift for founders, because in the current environment, all founders are focused on solving very first principles problems. They're focused on their customers. They're focused on building efficiently. They're not distracted by raising unnecessary capital. In 2021, I would ask founders, why do you want more money? And, in Hindi, one founder once told me, "Sir, acha lagta hai." And I was like, well, that's not good reason to raise money, So I think what had happened was raising capital had become a form of validation. It had become a form of feeling good, feeling better, and so on. And so but it was a big distraction, right, for founders. So I see the current cycle, the current time, as one where, people are building focused, sharp propositions for their customers. They're building in a capital efficient manner. They're not distracted by unnecessary fundraise. Too much capital is a seduction, and the seduction is that, your ambition, you can sort of, achieve it all very quickly, and you can achieve a lot more projects and so on. So companies do very many optional things that they don't need to do. And so I find the current environment is a gift. And I joke with founders always saying that I hope it lasts, the current environment lasts, because, for it to become habit forming, you want the current environment to be around for several quarters. If it is only a blip and then money comes rushing back in, then I think everybody goes back to having bad habits of spending money not very wisely.
Just like venture capitalists have been through an evolutionary cycle, one would like to think that startups in this country have also evolved over a period of time. And you've been fortunate because you've sort of had a ringside view of the ones that came really early on, the first generation ones, and the ones that are emerging now. Can you just tell us what the difference between them is?
Yeah, first, Sukumar, we are very fortunate that we have a chance to learn alongside founders, right? So I think that one of the biggest things about the startup ecosystem that you could say is the lifeblood is this constant power to learn. So every founder, all VCs have to be constantly on a learning journey, because we have to embrace change rapidly. And we have to be willing to make mistakes rapidly, learn from our mistakes, keep evolving, right? So the first thing is, I feel very fortunate, me and our team, we've been on this learning journey. And so what the learning journey does is, I think us and other VCs in the ecosystem, we start to have, more and more muscle memory on what not to do, what to do well, and so on. I think what's changed is, I'd say 3 buckets of things have changed. One, the opportunity set is far deeper. And so what happens is when a company starts to succeed, they can address the market in a far more accelerated fashion than they could at any point in the past, which is both good and bad. It's good because your company can scale and grow at an unprecedented pace. It's bad because managing that type of rapid 5x, 10x year on year growth is very chaotic. It's very challenging actually in the leadership team and so on. And so that's where muscle memory comes in, where now that we've seen this accelerated journey many times, we can hopefully partner with founders, help them calibrate on how fast to grow, those types of things. But the one thing that has changed is the ecosystem is very deep. The second thing that has helped a lot is that there is now lots of high caliber talent in the ecosystem. There's lots of leaders in various functional roles. We have 9 full-time people who only focus on helping our companies strengthen leadership teams. So call it the human capital function. We have a project ongoing where we'll bring independent directors to boards of companies before they go public, those types of things. So I think the ecosystem now has enough maturity where the quality, depth of talent that has seen some scale exists. So I'd say the second is the talent. And the third is also that I think really hard problems are now beginning to be solved in our ecosystem. So in the first generation of companies, people are doing simple things. They were building apps, they were building consumer internet propositions. Now they're building to solve science problems. They're beginning to apply technology in more difficult ways, build infrastructure businesses and so on. And so these types of businesses inherently have higher moats with intellectual property and technology. And so I think these are the 3 big changes, I think, from my standpoint, in the ecosystem, all quite positive.
That gives me an opportunity to segue into the area which a lot of people are talking about, which is really artificial intelligence. And you've seen a bunch of startups beginning to emerge in this space, even in India. Tell us a little bit about your own experience.
Yeah, Sukumar, thank you for asking. So, first, AI is not new. And, the premise of AI is that you can use data and algorithms to build self-learning capabilities and then make more intelligent applications or more intelligent decisions. Software can make more intelligent decisions than software without AI, right? That's the premise, core premise. Now, actually, our first AI investment was in a company called Aarya, made out of the Singapore. It's ironically also our first investment in Southeast Asia. And naive as we were at the time, this was actually a Taiwanese company, and we thought Taiwan was sort of greater part of the Southeast Asia region. We were still very early and young to the Southeast Asia region, so I'm making fun of ourselves here, but that company ended up doing well. And it was 2 PhDs who built an AI company. They applied AI to digital advertising. That company is now publicly listed in Japan. That is a good investment. We had another AI investment. So I'm talking many, many years ago, where we've been doing AI investments for 8, 9, 10 years already. Another AI company that is approaching 100 million ARR is a SaaS business, also in call it an area called MarTech or marketing technology, called Insider, that we invested in between Singapore and Turkey. That's done quite well. And then over the years, we have kept making AI investments. We currently have maybe a couple of dozen AI investments. I think what has changed recently is that now there are very high quality open source models available where, and AI algorithms are measured by how many parameters you might train the algorithms on or how many data points. And so, in 5 to 15 billion parameters, AI is beginning to show very high quality results. And these models are open source like Llama and others. And so there is a little bit of a why now moment in AI where there is a tipping point where AI applications are likely to become very mainstream. In fact, there will be no non-AI applications. All applications will try to use some form of AI, or will try to be a more intelligent version of themselves, quite likely. And this is going to become much more, call it, commonplace now. I think every company needs to have an AI strategy. Every software company needs to have an AI strategy. And it's actually an evolution of the same thing we've been seeing for the past 10, 15 years, where we've been saying, hey, data is the new oil. Leveraging data, you can make better decisions. Now we are saying leveraging data, you can have autonomous decisions and intelligent decisions made by software even faster and even better than before.
How sophisticated is the Indian AI startup ecosystem? Is it comparable to what you see in other countries in Southeast Asia? How does it compare with the AI ecosystem in Silicon Valley?
It's a tough question to answer, Sukumar. First, I do think it's early. The funny thing with AI is, our team members who focus on it, they'll constantly tell us things like, that investment that so-and-so made for $50 or $100 million. Well, the last 6 weeks, there have been some new releases and that thesis no longer holds. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is the AI landscape is evolving super fast. So I think, if you were to compare the consumer internet era, that took 20 years for it to sort of play itself out. Similarly, if you were to look at cloud computing era, that has taken a couple of decades. So I think we are very early. We will see AI play itself out over the next probably 2 decades. So I think we are super early. I think the India ecosystem, there's lots of interesting starts. And I think some of those companies will have to learn, evolve, grow quickly. I mean, this is a very fast changing landscape, probably the fastest changing landscape of any new area we have encountered in our 18 years. So this is not a static landscape where you can say, hey, the winners are picked, or like the way AI will evolve is already certain. I think it's changing quite fast.
No, I understand that. And that is a good point that you're making. That just as there are advantages to being an early mover in this space, there are also risks to being an early mover in this space, because something new may just come about and change the whole thing.
Exactly.
Tell us about exits. I know you've got one planned in November. I think Mamaearth is planning an exit in November. How does the appetite look for exits in India? Is the market mature enough for that?
Sukumar, it's a great question. I think LPs always have this question in mind. If you were to ask LPs transparently, what they think of the India market, they'll all say that, look, it's done well, but it has probably underperformed overall as an industry on exits. What we did is about 6-7 years ago, we built a strategic development team where we felt like we didn't have enough CFOs who had IPO experience. We didn't have enough, founders who had taken companies public before. And as a result, we have been able to do 19 IPOs already in the portfolio. We have one more in the pipeline. We are thrilled to have been in business with Mamaearth and been an early shareholder. They're hoping to be public in November, and looking forward to that. But I do think the leading metric into exits is actually how many scale companies exist. So one of the things, because once a company gets to, let's say, $100 million revenue, normally venture capital backed portfolio companies are growing pretty fast. They're growing between 30% and call it 2x year on year, in that range, typically at $100 million revenue scale. So what we do is, as a leading indicator, we always measure how many $100 million revenue companies we have in the portfolio, because that's the pipeline for us to take companies public. So I can give you a stat which we always talk about internally, and we look at this number every 6 months. Every portfolio review. Okay, how many companies have 50 million revenues? How many companies have 100 million revenues? That's our future pipeline to exits and IPOs. And in 2017, we used to have 5 such companies at the end of 2017. And it kept growing. And when the pandemic started, we had 17 companies over $100 million revenues at the start of the pandemic. Now we have 43 companies in the portfolio over $100 million of revenues. So I think actually the pipeline is building, and I think we will have scale companies from India. And I think India will see a very healthy crop of IPOs in the next 1 to 2 years.
Which will clearly set off another boom in investing, right? Because I think the minute these exits happen, there are going to be far more people who are going to be very, very keen to invest in this market.
Well, I hope we all stay sensible and long-term oriented, okay? But human psychology trumps logic, right? For breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so the reason bubbles form and the reason bubbles go bust is because of human psychology. And, and because psychology trumps logic. Otherwise, according to logic, everybody should be rushing in to buy today's big India tech companies, because, they have improved revenues. Many are profitable. Valuations are lower. And yet what you found is at the top of the market, everybody was buying, and in the bear market, nobody's buying, right? So, people, ironically, logic should suggest that we have far greater investment activity this year than in 2021, but psychology trumps logic, and therefore people flood in together, people leave together. So I hope I hope these exits are measured, and I hope we have a stable long-term ecosystem.
Just as a digression, because when companies exit by through the IPO route, going public, one of the things that you really look at is the governance structures that they have.
Yes.
How would you rate today's startups? Are they as they scale up? Are they doing enough on the governance aspect?
So, the first thing I would say, Sukumar, is that the Indian regulators are very, very high quality. When it comes to Reserve Bank or SEBI or other regulators, these are world-class regulators. And I think what they have surprised me on over the last 18 years is they don't even let bubbles form, or they don't even let mistakes happen many a times. They're very proactive, preemptive almost, in being able to watch out for markets to sort of misbehave, or for actors to misbehave. So overall, I feel our first things that's very important is our regulatory framework is a very healthy long-term framework. Because in some markets it's very easy to take companies public. In India, it's not been that easy to take companies public. But on the flip side of that is a company needs to have more substance. You can't, when you file for an IPO, you have to demonstrate how you're going to use proceeds. So there's a greater burden of proof. There's a greater burden of quality when companies go public in India than in some other markets. And I think that makes for a healthy ecosystem in the post-IPO market, right? So the first thing is that. The second is, look, all these tech companies, when they're in high growth phase, the truth is they're extraordinarily chaotic. And if you try telling a young founder, hey, please focus on governance, when they're working 24/7 to try to grow the company, or they're in what sometimes people call land grab mode, they're going to laugh at you, saying like, we'll do this when we have time to do this, right? So early companies are very chaotic, and I think that's the graduation exercise. And we always tell founders the following. We tell them, look, you're likely an extraordinary innovator as a founder, but are you a good CEO? And it's your journey of from being a good innovator to being a good CEO. That's your learning journey. And eventually as the CEO of a public company, or you should bring in a CEO to run your public company, and you should act like a shareholder. So I think that's the journey that founders are on. And very honestly, different founders have different ability to go from being a good founder to being a good CEO. And the founders who evolve to being great CEOs and great leaders, they understand that in order to keep my company very safe, protected, for me to build it for decades, I need to have extraordinary governance. And this needs to be an area of strength and not an area of weakness for me. So I'd say it's very company specific and founder specific. But actually one thing that has happened is I do think when founders start to get to the point where they start thinking about life as a public company, they look around them and they say, wait, the companies with great governance actually get a premium. So this is not just stuff that I have to do for hygiene alone, or for, it's not that, oh, this is the annoying part of my work that I enjoy less doing, I should have somebody else do it. They start to understand, wait, this will allow me to actually succeed for decades. And I might even get a premium for great governance. So we do see a lot of openness from founders now to have independent board members join in, to have committees made on time, to have audits done both internal and statutory, to have audit committees created for the auditors to present to board members. Good habits start to come in when founders start to appreciate.
That's right. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the founders themselves. You've been looking at founders over the last 2 decades. Are today's founders very different from, let's say, founders 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. First, Sukumar, it's a question very close to my heart. We have this early stage program called Surge. I run a session called Founders DNA. So, I always talk to founders about how are they able to understand their own psychology. I think first what happens is being a founder is an extraordinarily tough journey. Very, very, very tough journey. And it's extraordinarily volatile. It's very emotionally volatile. Founders are deeply committed to their companies. And I think every founder, because of their extraordinary commitment and their vision and their, call it, willingness to challenge status quo, has some superpowers. But every gift is also their curse. And I tell every founder, you are like the superhero from a movie, but you have to control your gift. And that's the journey of a founder, going from being a great innovator to being a great CEO, is this ability to control your gift. and to figure out, hey, what are your strengths that you will leverage, and then what are not your strengths for where you should have other leadership team members or board members or investors help you. I think founders are extraordinarily ambitious today. In a way, they know that success can be pretty extraordinary. So I think founders are definitely more ambitious in the last 20 years. I also think founders are on a faster learning trajectory than before because of the talent they can surround themselves with. So, 8 or 10 years ago, would you be able to easily go and get enough other founders to mentor you who had built big businesses, or could you get the executives to work for you who had built big businesses? So I think founders are able to surround themselves with good talent. And I think that's a big strength for founders building today. But they're still susceptible to the same human flaws like any other person, which is that, their strength can be their weakness. Their success can get to their heads. This is a normal thing we will expect to see in startup ecosystems. I think we will see this over and over again, which is that somebody's strength will become their weakness because the success came too fast and so on. And that's the ability for founders to become good CEOs. And I think some will make it and some won't. But I do think there is more capabilities in the ecosystem to nurture them. There is more talent available to help them learn. And I think founders also, just like we have muscle memory, founders are also more and more experienced people are becoming founders. So I think they also have seen some cycles by now.
I have 3 more questions, and all of them are, I'm hoping they are questions that will help people make some money, because I think those are the best questions. What are the areas that excite you the most in India right now? Which are the sectors that excite you the most in India right now?
So Skor, we like 3 sectors the most. Fintech has been our top sector of investments last 7-8 years. And we think India has the most extraordinary fintech ecosystem because of the digital public goods, because of Aadhaar and UPI and all the other incredible things that NPCI and others have built. So we have very high conviction. India has the world's most fertile, most interesting fintech ecosystem, probably the most advanced as well. So that continues to be an area we spend a lot of time in. The second sector, like I mentioned, is all these cross-border companies. We think, India will. So if you think 10 years out, our hypothesis is software is not a winner-take-all business. In every single category of software, there should be a company from India or from Southeast Asia, a non-American company that's in the top 2 or top 3 globally in every single category over the next 10 to 20 years. Because there's going to be 30 trillion of non-China GDP in Asia alone in the next decade. Okay, so in the next decade, when there's that much GDP, just non-China Asia is going to have tons of GDP, call it non-China APAC. So even without going to the US, companies will be able to scale quite large, software companies, and eventually they'll become global challengers, in those categories. So we are very bullish on being able to build global software companies from India. And the third is obviously India will remain for decades a very fertile consumer market. So consumer spending will continue to go up, per capita GDP, disposable income will continue to grow up. And, I think for anybody investing for several decades, the compounding, the consistent, and I'd say capital efficient compounding that consumer opportunities might present will be pretty interesting. So I'd say those are our top 2-3 areas of focus. And those are also where we expect, we can see this chance to build enduring companies.
What would your top tips for new investors in India be? Someone has a new fund, is looking to invest in India. What are the things they should watch out for?
Stay patient. Yeah, I think for people investing in startups, it's very easy to overestimate what companies will achieve in 2, 3, 4 years. And it's also equally easy to underestimate what they will achieve in 10 or 20 years. Increasingly, I've started asking the phrase of our team, because normally VCs or private equity will invest maximum for 1 decade. In some cases, we are shareholders for 13, 14, 15 years. And I've started asking a new question, which is this the right decade to own this company? Because if you think on a multi-decade time horizon, I think many companies are just hitting their stride after the 5-year mark, 5, 6, 7-year mark. So I think India is an investment market for patient investors that can truly, believe in the multi-decade compounding. I think all the let me go very fast, crash and burn type strategies repeatedly over 4-5 cycles have now proven to cause a lot of pain and not enough gain.
Last question. Tips for entrepreneurs. If someone is starting up now, what would your top tips for them be?
Well, so, I've been talking to founders about this idea of building a 1% company. Let me tell you what that means. So over the last 30 years, actually from 1990, there was a study conducted of all global public companies from 1990 to 2018, over a 28-year period. It turns out that even after going public, 1.3% of all companies generated 90% of the wealth in public markets. Okay, so over a 28-year period, globally, all companies that were public, 1.3% companies generated 90% of the wealth. So the power law is extraordinary even after companies go public. It's even more extraordinary in private companies. And so my constant counsel to founders is this idea of embracing a 1% mindset, which is that do something extraordinarily well. You have to be in the 1% versus do too many things. So find a proposition, find a way to delight your customers, find a customer proposition that is totally extraordinary, that is, head and shoulders above something else. Up until then, don't settle for a good proposition. Keep looking for an extraordinary proposition. If you can build an extraordinary proposition, then you'll have to, obviously find PMF, build a world-class team, build good governance, scale the business. But for people that want to be in the 1%, they have to find that extraordinary proposition. Then they have to take a super long-term view to build a generational company and build a high quality org to support that proposition, right? To make it to convert it into a real business. So I think these are the 3-4 key ingredients that I always tell founders to go try to build. But I hope that is helpful to whoever's listening.
No, it is helpful, and I think it's a good note to end on. Thank you very much, Shailendra. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your knowledge so freely. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from this.
So, Kumar, very grateful and honored to be here with you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Our next guest, actor Sushmita Sen, has come a long way from her start as a model and Miss Universe. She has constantly evolved, and from being a movie star, she is also now the main star of the hit OTT series Aarya. Here's her in conversation with HD's Sonal Kalra.
She's super talented. She's super graceful. As an actor, as a mother, as a human being, she personifies confidence for millions of her fans. Her big comeback in acting through OTT was lapped up by her audiences. So in this OTT special session of the 21st Hindustan Times Leadership Summit, we could not have asked for a better guest than the one and only Sushmita Sen. Thank you so much, Sushmita. It's such an honor and delight to have you with us at the HT Leadership Summit.
Thank you so much for having me, Sonal. This is wonderful. Lovely to finally connect with you again.
Yes, absolutely. And congratulations on the launch of the Aarya 3 trailer. I just happened to see the trailer, and I've just told you backstage that one couldn't think of a better way to, open up a series which is nothing but thrills and excitement. So how does it feel?
Goosebumps. I watched the trailer twice with a room full of people, with all the members of the media, the cast of Aarya, the team, essentially. And I had this sense of enormous pride because I know that everyone's put their life and commitment into it to another level. Because you see, when you do a third season, you can either be excited to bring in your A game again and again, or you can be dog tired because you've been through the journey and it can become mundane for people. It is such a joy to see a team that takes it up like a fresh new start and comes with that kind of energy that is infused. And when we saw the trailer today, goosebumps, love, goosebumps.
Well, goosebumps indeed, and that's the feeling that I and my team also had here when we watched it. And Sushmita, we were just talking before we started about how when there's a sequel and when something's already done so well, just as Aarya did, and an international Emmy nomination, and then the second season was received so well. One, yes, there are expectations, and then there are also questions to whether the fact of doing seasons after seasons of a story, do you think sometimes puts a pressure on the writers to force write something just so that there are seasons, and therefore the climax has to end on something which would announce the next season, and you know how it goes? Or should the story logic
There's obviously
should?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So, no, usually it is that pressure does lie with the writers, both in and outside the writers' room. As so it lies with the director and the cast and crew. But we are an adaptation of Pinoza, which is a Dutch series. Of course, Mr. Ram Madhvani and all our other directors, the three directors together, that's Kapil and Shraddha, they've Indianized it. They've brought in the Indian ethos, the emotion, the mother. But there are certain milestones that we are following from that adaptation. So we are lucky like that because we do have content. We don't have the pressure to create something right from scratch. We do have the help of that. But having said which, it's not easy because, it's one thing to have a cliffhanger at the end of one episode, but it's quite another to leave your audiences with the need and the desire to see a second season and then a third season. And for them to have the kind of excitement they have currently for Aarya 3. We feel very, very blessed.
Well, awesome. And to see at the end of the teaser that Sushmita, maybe Aarya may be dying or gets shot, also gave a lot of fear to a lot of fans, but I'm sure it's taking the story forward in a much more exciting manner.
It was cathartic in a sense because all of the action that you see in the trailer was shot 1 month after my heart attack. So everything, the entire action was shot after. So when Aarya gets shot and she falls to the ground and she's gasping in a crazy way, it was like real and real life finally coming to a beautiful cathartic unison feeling. As dark as that sounds, I think it was a whole new beginning for me, both personally and for Aarya on screen. So yeah, it's the action in this season is insane. It's no holds bar. All the actors, including yours truly, have had to go through the drill. And it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but because our system of shooting Aarya is very realistic, there are no cuts and it's a 360-degree way of filming. It's like doing theater. So essentially, action is not cuts. You have to know the entire sequence and shoot the whole thing in one go, and then it will be cut on the editing table basis different takes. That was challenging for all the actors concerned because our timing was everything. But
I can
we
imagine,
got
in
it.
fact, yes, absolutely. And how? Because people have been, earlier co-actors have been talking about Ram Madhvani's style of 360-degree filmmaking. And I think it's also a new, exciting experience, however tough it may be, but it's a very new and exciting experience for the actors.
Oh, it spoils you for life. It spoils you for life. You cannot go back to close up, mid, over shoulder, because there's a continuation to a conversation. There's a continuation to an emotion. When you cut it, it takes away that moment and then you try to catch continuity and come back to the shot. In this 360 system of Mr. Ram Madhvani, there is just this, you have to get used to it. You have to practice a lot. You have to be coming to the sets fully prepared with your lines. And you have to know what milestones to hit in a take. And you have to have stamina because every take is about 35 minutes long.
Oh.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it's like a whole scene done in one go.
Amazing. And, I thought I'd bring this up later in the conversation, but since you mentioned the heart attack and Only you could have mentioned such a thing in such a beautiful way, the way you expressed it, in the entire cathartic way that you talk of it. I hope you do realize that you've always been an inspiration to your fans and millions of people. But this fact that your health scare, you spoke about it in such a beautiful manner and in such a strong manner after you recovered from it. Also ended up providing a very different level of inspiration to people who are always worried about health being the most important thing. So what's your biggest takeaway from this scare and how it impacted you?
It happened so suddenly and so unexpectedly, given that both my parents so have a heart condition. So I basically used to have 2 checkups in a year because I was aware that genetically I have that. And so my last one was done 6 months before the heart attack. And it was shocking because everything was okay. The stress test was okay. The 2D echo was okay. So it was a very sudden occurrence. My takeaway is this. You see, whatever be the reason, we all have a deadline. But the fact that that day on the 24th of February wasn't my deadline means there is a lot to be done still. And what a driving force that is, to know that your life has so much purpose left, so much to fulfill in it still, that a massive heart attack still could not do anything. No damage to it by God's grace. I'm very, very lucky. But that is a takeaway, that I have a lot to live for.
Sure. And as I'm again and again, at the cost of sounding very repetitive, I have to say that only Sushmita Sen could put it in such beautiful terms, no matter what one is talking about. Only you could take a very positive lesson out of anything, scary or otherwise.
Well, that's very sweet of you. In fact, I think half of the troubles in my life that I've survived because I am positive. So I have a very high level of acceptance. So if it looks bad and painful, I accept it's bad and painful. And then I await whatever comes next. And I'm always open to the idea that whatever comes next is going to be beautiful, whatever it is. And life surprises you, because when you think like that, what does follow is beautiful.
True that. Absolutely. So, Sushmita, the topic for our conversation, in fact, the topic for the entire summit is beyond boundaries. And since we're talking OTT here, I need to know from you on what made you take the decision of making and I don't know if you like the word comeback or not, but it's so used.
I don't care.
But purely factually, since there had been a sabbatical that you've taken from acting, what made you decide to go for OTT as the medium for this comeback? And there's another part to this question that, we were thinking that during COVID, everyone was thinking that OTT has its moment now, and OTT would always have an edge in front of the theatricals. Then came the theatricals with vengeance and again tried to reclaim their spot. So do you now feel that in the consumption pattern of the audiences, the space for OTT and the space for theatres has been firmly established and both are going to coexist?
They're definitely going to coexist. That I am beyond convinced. Theatre, the magic of cinema, has its own place. Excuse me. Whereas OTT, leaving a pandemic aside, it came to become what it did because of the content it carries. The opportunity it carries for all, why an actor, all creative people attached to it, to go beyond what they've been doing in terms of a platform as theatre, cinemas. It allowed us the freedom to not think about different territories, Friday release, done by Tuesday. I mean, I've shot something 2 years ago. People still call me and say, I watched Aarya season 1 just now, Ken. Unbelievable. Where do you get that? That longevity of work and the content. I mean the content. To imagine that Indian cinema has the magic and the power globally of what it is. And I'm very privileged to be a part of it. But I cannot fathom a female version of a Michael Corleone film being made called Aarya, which is funded with a gigantic production cost that Aarya OTT is made for. The reason you look at the show and you understand the size is because they've really invested in it. So as an actor and also someone who loves cinema, I think it's time that we had both. And I'm sure that they're here to stay. Both of them.
Perfect. And is that why you chose OTT as the medium for your comeback?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. The reason I left films to begin with was because I was tired of doing the same 201 expression to 2010. This was all I had to do, and one good song and one good. I was looking for more. As I was getting older, I just was not happy with just that. I wanted more. I wanted to be a student again. I wanted someone to take out the time to teach me and to tell me, you suck at this job. Let me teach you how it's really done. And that's what Aarya did for me. They said, newcomer. I was like, yes. So I would have a 14-hour day at the workshops. Other actors would come and go, and I'd be like the permanent fixture who's just hungry to learn. I don't remember coming back home till very late at night, every single day for 21 days. And loving it. And saying, finally, I'm learning how to do my job. And someone's taking out the time to teach it to me. So, I'm like that. I just think the idea of being a star or a very great actor, none of this matters to me. What matters to me is I touch 50 in my life and I say, this is what I did. This is what I have to show for my 50 years. And that meant walking away from films, which I did, which I do realize even more now than I did then. That was very brave. But I'm glad I did. I'm glad I listened to my heart, which basically said, do anything but waste your time. And I stepped away and I unlearned, learned, and came back with Aarya.
It's again a very beautiful word that you used, unlearned. And I think OTT as a medium, and it's also my personal belief that OTT has made a lot of us unlearn a whole lot of things which were considered for granted for a person to make it in films. And as a part of our profession, we keep talking to film stars who would say that, there were things being said about shelf life, a certain age, you have to look a certain way to make it big. All of those and more. Just as you spoke about a woman protagonist and a studio investing so much on a woman-oriented, how we've used this term woman-oriented film. So I think what OTT has brought with itself is this ability for all of us to have successfully unlearned. And now there's a huge crop of beautifully talented actors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I were to ask you about
actors.
Yeah. And if I were to ask you about your favorite co-stars, either co-stars or just as a person who watches OTT content, your favorite actors at the moment on OTT?
There's no at the moment. That is the magic of OTT. Every time you watch a new show, you're just like, who is that person? And these are not even known people. You just look at an actor and you just go, wow, who is that actor? Then I have a friend called Srijaya Radhakrishnan. She's a writer. And first call goes to her, who is this person now? What are the work they've done? She's like, she calls me Queen. She says, Queen, I don't know. I've never seen this person before. So there are actually plenty. I have to say, though, that in Aarya alone, coming back to this only because these are people I've worked with hands-on. So I can tell you. When in season 3, we have new cast. We have a lot of new addition to the cast. It's not easy for them to step in and follow the 360 and get into season 3 with other actors and their relationships and characters already built and fit right in. One step further, they inspire the rest of us to pull up our socks. You see?
Yeah.
Because they're all coming from either theater backgrounds or they're coming just as fresh off the boat actors and raw. So no preconceived notions. And so a big shout out to all these actors. And I wouldn't want to name any one of them right now because honestly, all of them deserve the respect they're getting. I'm hoping and praying that the OTT platforms now give me the opportunity to work with a lot of them. Because I have this feeling that my second innings is about this new energy, this new force.
Sushmita, you spoke about Aarya Sareen and how people have named their children that, which is such a huge, beautiful compliment. I think another thing for which Aarya Sareen is being absolutely known for is the protective mother streak, which I think absolutely comes from your own life. Whenever I watch it, I somehow am able to not distinguish between Sushmita Sen, the mother, who I know for a fact would be as and more protective of her children as Aarya Sareen is. So I want to know how both your daughters have reacted to your portrayal and how much of it is coming completely from your own motherly instincts.
Yeah, there are definitely moments in the series where Alisa, especially my younger one, she'll jump in, she'll say, "That's you, that's not Aarya, that's you, Mom." And I'm just like, chill. I'm supposed to be bringing me into Aarya. So that's the system. We all have to stay close to the truth of the character. You have to be bringing in the truth of who you are. So that interpretation is a freedom that Mr. Ram Madhvani's 360 gives you. There's no spoon feeding. There is the milestones and you have to reach it and you have to stay within the understanding of this person's life. So you can't over or underplay that. So that we work out in the workshop. But then on the day of the shoot, each of us brings ourselves to the character. Not all of it, because a lot of what is written doesn't hold true to who I am. But wherever, so motherhood, definitely. Very protective of my children in real life. But also, I have this very Scorpion mom thing. You can't keep them in diapers all their lives. You have to get them to a point of being independent and then let them go and make a path for themselves. And that's the tough part, I think, when you're a protective mother, is to know when to do that. But yeah, definitely Aarya has a lot of Sushmita there.
Well, another of your roles which we can't not talk about is Tali, because again, you would very soon make the habit of blowing people over by these taking up these challenging roles and then hitting the ball out of the park. So what
I love you, yeah. I love her. FYI. Thanks, Sonu.
No, but that's absolutely from the heart. So again, a very risky role to say yes to. Everything was going well with Aarya. Why do you even need to take risks? But then Sushmita Sen would always go ahead and do that, wouldn't she? So what made you take up?
For one, well, thank you for that. But I think, Sonal, after I did Aarya, everything else that I was looking at was another interpretation of Aarya. That stereotypical theme still continues, even on OTT, cinema and OTT, both. And so it was a conscious choice not to say yes to any of that. Because this innings is about experimenting, about exploring. It isn't about doing the same thing over and over again. That was the reason I was burnt out the first time. I wasn't going to allow it a second time. So going to just take my time and being very, very selective. Reading scripts, meeting a lot of people, but not really green-lighting anything. And then out of the blue came Tali, the script. I was firstly amazed that someone could have the courage to come to me with it. Knowing that, no, she's all about commercial cinema or this glamorous whatever. Why would she want to do this? I was so proud of these people because I was like, wow, thank you for doing this. She says, no, whenever we said maybe she will not want to read the script or know about it, Gauri Sawant said, I want you to go to her. And when I heard that, I was like, it's her call. That's fantastic. Then all the more reason, we sat 6 months, went back and forth on the script, did a lot of different kinds of, you see, we all think that we know a lot about the third gender or the trans gender community or the LGBTQIA community. We really don't. We know everything on a peripheral, level. So that's when I delved deeper and I realized, oh my God, I'm wondering if I can play a transgender activist. The wrong thing to be wondering about. I have to tell this woman's story. And that's my job as an actor. So that's when I met Sri Gauri Sawant, fell in love with her, loved her to another level, and told her that you're taking an enormous risk with me to play you. Are you absolutely sure you want me? She said, I'm 100% sure. My Marvel Murthy, my Miss Universe, you're going to play this for me. And that was it. And then we went. First time in my life, I sat down for the look test. And they drew the beard and they brought in the slight stubble. They grew in the sideburns. And I never looked more beautiful, Sonal. As an actor, that was the first time I looked at myself and said, wow. Wow. I've come of age.
What an absolutely beautiful thing to say. What an absolutely beautiful thing. And no,
it's a big privilege.
Yeah, it is. It's very sweet of you to call it a privilege, but I must say that it's also a privilege for the audiences to have someone who has so much conviction in a role like that, because not many would even venture into listening more about it. So
I knew the minute I said yes to this that, sorry. The minute I heard about it and knew that I was doing it, I knew it was going to be being the voice of a community that, I knew it right from the beginning. So when I am enraged in Tali, and that monologue, for instance, which is we call it the TED Talk, where she's speaking about the transgender community, Gauri. That entire stretch from starting with a casual conversation to me breaking down and crying and being enraged, all of this is shot in one go because the director, Mr. Ravi Jadhav, amazing man, him and I decided, because the rest of Tali is not shot like that. You have cuts and the traditional sense of filming, not a 360 approach. But for the monologue, we said, we want a 360. This is my tribute to the community and I want to speak it in one go. And when we did, I actually broke down and I actually got angry. And somehow, in a strangest way possible, even the rest of the team that belongs to Sri Gauri Sawant's, family of friends that are part of the filming, they all finally said, you've become Amma. She's as ferocious. She feels this so deeply that you've become her. And I knew then that I had made it very, very personal. I'm so glad people have received it the way they have, because the idea was, for 3 decades now, people have loved me so much, me as in Sushmita. And I was hoping that if I play Sri Gauri Sawant, that love will transmit itself through me and that there will be more empathy. And I've been hoping that happens. And with the feedback that I've got, it's been an overload of empathy. So I think we succeeded on that front.
Oh, completely. But Sushmita, now these back-to-back successes with Aarya and Tali, I'm sure is in a very conventional way making the producers line up again with film offers, and I'm hoping that these offers are now different from what you would get earlier in the first innings that we're talking about. And are there any that you're considering? Are there any reservations that you wouldn't want to go down that road again?
No, definitely considering a lot at this moment. However, like I said, this innings is about content. It's about doing things differently. So whether that content comes to me in a theatrical platform, it comes OTT, it comes on a YouTube short film, I am going to do it. It's what I want to do this time. So only thing is, sometimes we get carried away with what we hear, as in a script and an idea. This time around, I am being very particular of the team behind that idea, the people who will actually execute it. If that team and that vision sits well together, I'm definitely doing it. So, and yeah, Naughty Me needs it to be author-backed. So that's never easy. You have to wait for those ones. So I have 3 things currently that we're working on. One for films, theatre, cinema, and the other 2 are back to OTT. But let's see what finally looks.
I think there's a lot of merit in being platform agnostic, as you rightly put it, because it's the story at the end of the day that you want to tell, and platform, regardless if that story is being told.
Absolutely.
Then that's the purpose. But one would look at maybe a film with a full masala entertainment, the way Bollywood films are, or
I like that. I love that.
Yeah.
I have to do that also. I have to do one comedy. I'm itching to do a comedy. But it has to be something that has more than just comedy. So we'll see.
Right. Because I'm sure अभी भी मैं हूँ ना और चुनरी चुनरी वाली requests तो जिंदगी भर आएंगे, because you know who set these iconic benchmarks in entertainment, like full to entertainment, also can't get away from that.
Yeah, I'm a naturally commercial mindset. My whole mindset as a creative person is extremely commercial, because I believe that what we shoot, what we create, it is for public consumption.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to make something for my liking and I love it, but it should be something that entertains the hell out of people, however you do. So yeah, count me in. Maybe there's another song waiting somewhere. But when I choose to do it, I promise you, jaw-dropping good will make it.
Well, no doubts about that. Sushmita, I'd like to end this with always, you're known for words of wisdom that come to you like a river naturally flows. I don't think I've ever, in so many years of my career, having watched a lot of your stuff, have ever seen anything repetitive in terms of the way your advice naturally flows out towards young people, towards people who get inspired by you. So हमारी इस लीडरशिप समिट को जो इतने सारे लोग देख रहे हैं, apart from fans, a lot of younger people, उनके लिए, if there is that one advice that you'd want to give, a life lesson from Sushmita.
इतने प्यार से सवाल कौन पूछता है? पहले तो इतने प्यार से. Every question you ask has so much love in it. So it'll be fun to spend some time with you. Cup of coffee?
Would love that. Absolutely. My honor.
So we have a date. You know, the thing about it is, advice, I don't really know. I just keep speaking my mind, and it also at times when I look back at it and I hear myself giving these advices, so to speak, I realize, oh my God, that is the frame of mind I was in back then. And then I have evolved. And today I would probably say something very different. And sometimes about the same, it's just evolved a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
So life is like that. The only constant is change. And that has been the one thing that I say to people all the time. Be accepting of that change, whatever that change may be. Sometimes you'll benefit from it. Sometimes you'll feel lost. But that change is there for you. It's not against you. So the only thing against you is your stubbornness not to change. As long as you're open to that, success and love and money and the future of your dreams, everything will come to pass. But the one thing that will stay true innately on a cellular level is the person you are, that was open to change and open to adapting and evolving. Just romance life. This is the most important thing I say to people all the time, no matter what. It is a privilege to be alive. Live every moment of it and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Excellent. I can bet my life on the fact that whoever's in front of you over there, who I can't see, must also be nodding their heads, just as I can see everyone here in this very intensely nodding their head. So Sushmita, trust and take it from me that there is a life coach who you must keep thriving within yourself and nurturing within yourself, because it really does make a lot of difference to a lot of lives.
Oh, that's special. Thank you. I just hope I'm always honest with sharing it. You know, sometimes it's the kind of life we lead. We decide sometimes to be quiet, to keep it to ourselves. And I realize more and more that if you don't do that, your pain can be someone else's lesson. There is so much power in that. So yeah, I'm always hoping that, you know, I stay true to that. But you are so, so special. We have a coffee date.
We 100% would. And on that note, Sushmita, thank you so much. I know it's been a supremely hectic day for you, but once again, congratulations on the trailer. And I hope everyone far and wide appreciates the season 3 and loves you for what you are. And please keep doing the work that you're doing, because it is touching lives and it's making a lot of us a lot more happier. So
thank you so, so much. And everyone listening on this summit, God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today's sessions. We'll of course be back again tomorrow. Join us then. Goodbye.
A vision becomes a milestone when it helps make our lives richer with love and laughter. When it helps make a cleaner, smarter, and a more beautiful planet. So that you can set off on joyous new journeys and adventures. Building stronger bonds and bridging impossible distances, which take you from the ever new to the forever beautiful. Opening up vistas and windows to a vibrant new world. A vision becomes a milestone when it touches millions of lives. Aditya Birla Group, big in your life.
Evolve is the core of positive change and adaptation. Evolve is the soul of the universe. and is deeply connected to us and the actions around us. There will be one thing that will last forever: evolution. Be a part of the business evolution of India. WTC, World Trade Center, Delhi at Nauroji Nagar. And be a part of the global culture. We keep our accomplishments fresh and we keep innovating this space. We are driven by the Government of India's vision to drive growth for India. We had a dream to bring the best of the world to India. And we had the vision to create a majestic, holistic and exclusive reality. Be a part of one of India's largest commercial space revolutions. WTC, World Trade Center, Delhi at Nauroji Nagar. The World Trade Center offers exceptional connectivity to all parts of the city. It is closely connected to places like Lutyens, Delhi, and its proximity to the airport makes it even more appealing. A luxurious, upscale and 12 towers offering the most technologically advanced office space and modern features in the city. Meticulously planned and crafted 12 towers. A landmark project with a massive land span of over 34 lakh square feet area. Infused with all the modern amenities with intelligent designs, green spaces and high-end facilities. Built with a vision, planned for a greener today and tomorrow. Dedicated spaces for cultural activities, F&B courts, boardrooms, health centers, multi-layered securities and modern parking facilities, to name a few. With 24-hour security, state-of-the-art facilities and an impressive list of features for your business, there would be parking space for 8,000 cars. Our commercial office spaces will meet your needs to grow and expand. The spacious floor plans offers a unique, individualized workspace and ample natural light throughout the workday. All our locations in WTC will include state-of-the-art healthcare services, fitness centers, so you can get the most out of your workspace. A reality shaping, rising, shining and standing tall. The dream place for businesses and hospitality. A reflection of supremacy. A hub for businesses to flourish and thrive. Live the dream. Lead the way. Showcase, collaborate and succeed. Be a part of the business evolution. Be a part of global trade revolutions. Many big corporates have already marked their presence at WTC Delhi. Bookings are open. Book your space now. It is a fact of life that every coin has two sides. In our case, people are just familiar with one, and that is of being a money lender to the railway sector. So here is an eye-opener. At Indian Railway Finance Corporation, we nurture millions of dreams. The dreams that are powered with new ideas, will and ambition to be on top of the world. We are committed to creating a conducive environment for the railway sector to grow unhindered. Right from planning to backing up its construction to modernization, funding of high-capacity wagons, coaches and high-speed locomotives.
औषधि केंद्रों पर मिलने वाली दवाओं की कीमत बाजार में जो दवाएं मिलती हैं उसी क्वालिटी की, लेकिन जन औषधि केंद्र में 50% से 90% तक उसकी कीमत कम होती है।
भारतीय जन औषधि परियोजना के अंतर्गत अब तक देश भर में हजारों जन औषधि केंद्र खोले जा चुके हैं, जहां पर 1800 से अधिक दवाइयां और 285 सर्जिकल उपकरण बहुत ही कम कीमतों पर उपलब्ध हैं। अधिक जानकारी के लिए जन औषधि सुगम मोबाइल ऐप को डाउनलोड करें या टोल फ्री नंबर 1800-180-8080 पर कॉल करें।
जोड़ना है तुझे ऊंचा, परों को खोल के रख, कसौटी वक्त की है, हौसलों को तोल के रख। ऊंची है दीवारें, लंबी है डगर, ना है हम राही, ना है हम सफर।
खरगोन हमारे R&R प्लान में लोग हर साल जो आसपास की ग्रामीण महिलाएं हैं उनको टेलरिंग का क्लास कराते हैं। जो स्कूल बैग्स भी हम लोग हर साल बांटते थे, 850-900 के लगभग स्कूल बैग्स भी बांटते थे, वो बैग्स भी हमने इनसे स्टिच कराए।
सक्षम बनना चाहते थे, हम हमारे पैरों पे खड़ा होना चाहते थे। तो हमने एक बार मीटिंग की, मीटिंग में बोला कि सर हम इतना कार्य सीखे हैं तो हमको दुकान खुलवा के दो, तो दुकान खुलवा के दिया।
हमको यहाँ दुकान मिलने के बाद हमने सोचा कि हम यहाँ जो भी कार्य करते हैं, जो भी चीज़ें बनाते हैं, उन चीज़ों पर हमारे ब्रांड का नाम किया है और हमने सोचा कि हम हमारे ब्रांड का नाम सब इसलिए रखा कि हम आगे बढ़े और हमें देखते महिला और लड़कियाँ भी आगे बढ़े।
अभी आगाज है तेरा, बहुत कुछ सीखना है, कमर कसनी अभी बाकी है, मुट्ठी भींचना है। अभी आगाज है तेरा, बहुत कुछ सीखना है।
हमने फिर इनको अपना एक जो हमारा गर्ल एम्पावरमेंट मिशन का एक प्रोग्राम होता है, उसमें कि उसके जो बालिकाएं थीं उनका ड्रेस भी हमने इन्हीं से स्टिच कराया और वो प्रोग्राम में वो ड्रेसेस बहुत सक्सेसफुल थी, लोगों ने उनको बहुत अप्रिशिएट किया। नेक्स्ट लेवल पे हम ये प्लान कर रहे हैं कि इनको हम जो इंडस्ट्रियल स्टिचिंग मशीनें होती हैं वो हम इनको ला के देंगे। इन्हीं जो हमने इन बच्चों को जो ट्रेन किया है, दे विल बिकम, हमारा ये एक तरीके से एम्बेसडर का काम करेगा। और हमारा TPC का जो विज़न है कि हम पावर जनरेशन के साथ साथ हम आसपास के लोगों का भी केयर करते हैं, इसमें भी हम सफल हो पाएंगे। धन्यवाद।
इतिहास लिखने के लिए कलम की नहीं, हौसलों की जरूरत होती है।
थैंक यू NTPC खरगोन।